Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind. We gotta get into some leftist hypocrisy. You know, call me crazy, but I feel like if we didn't have leftists, we probably wouldn't have racism, or at least not too much of it. You know, it's almost as if these leftists are like desperate to make sure that racism never goes away, that it stays fresh in our mind forever. I feel like I grew up in the 90s and we were pretty much kind of like over it. I had friends from all kinds of different nationalities. I had black friends, I had a Persian friend, I still have a Sikh friend to this day. My fiance and future wife is Vietnamese. You know, I grew up in a pretty multicultural environment, and I don't really remember putting too much emphasis on race, and I feel like that was kind of the culture in a way. At least we're moving towards that kind of culture. And then Barack Obama got elected, and all of a sudden, everything became about race. Racism, 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 racism. Like, it's enough to make your freaking head spin. The left is constantly telling us about how prevalent it is and how it's everywhere and people experience it on a daily basis. Microaggressions and this, that, and the other. Look, I'm not a minority, so I don't have the experience, but I feel like it's overstated, right? All the people that I talk to feel like it kind of doesn't exist, or most people that I know feel like they've never experienced it directly in their life, yet lefties keep telling us it's so prevalent and happening nonstop. And so the question I ask myself is, why is it that if racism is so prevalent in our society, why is it that these desperate Democrat fake news journalists have to jump through freaking hoops and do multiple backflips just to get one example of racism, and then that one example turns out to be a freaking scam or a fraud every single freaking time? Now, this concept that I'm laying out for you guys isn't anything new, of course, but we got another example of it. Supposedly, a kid at a Kansas City Chiefs game wore blackface, and it's another example of racist white America, blah, blah, blah. Turns out, these grifting leftoids got the story wrong, as usual. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so here's the story that everyone's talking about. This young kid right over here, a Kansas City Chiefs fan, a young boy, who was on camera while the play was stopped, supposedly doing blackface. As you can clearly see here, right? Deadspin reported on the story immediately. The NFL needs to speak out against the Kansas City Chiefs fan in blackface and native headdress. Oh, need to speak out against this, I don't know, like 12-year-old kid. Like, what the fuck am I even watching? Then, of course, the Twitter activists and TikTok activists all chimed in.
It's crazy, G. That is wild. And you know, I like we talked about this before. I feel like the parent had to be like, let's roll the kid out and see what happens. You know, maybe if he can get away with it, I could try it next. They're not going to jump a child, are they?
You're saying his dad is soft launching the blackface?
Right.
My whole why was there blackface on, a Native American? That's what I was wondering.
If you're going to throw the headdress on, it.
And no, here's what I'm thinking, because it should have been red face, right? Like, if we're going to be racist, we got to be accurately racist. You know what I'm saying? But my whole thing is this, like, if you're going out to buy some, to darken your face, why did you not buy the red shit instead of the black shit? Did you just have some blackface material hanging around your crib because you were like so deeply rooted into the racism shit?
The worst thing to ever happen, the most offensive worst thing ever. Blackface, folks. This is white supremacy. You know, white people could do this and get away with it in public. You know, whatever. I don't even know what kind of arguments or what kind of statements these people are making, because it doesn't really matter. The point is, this young kid was not in blackface. Here's another video. Here's another picture. Here's another picture. I mean, just put a bunch of pictures on the screen as I'm saying this. His face is painted half black, half red, the color of the team. And he's wearing a Native American headdress because it's the Kansas City Chiefs. But wait, it gets even worse than that. This young child was accused of doing blackface when he wasn't. That's pretty bad, right? He was also accused of cultural appropriation. We all know how offensive it is for white people to be wearing Native American gear. You know, Will Witt once proved that in a social experiment.
If I hear about and I can do something, best believe I'm gonna show up.
Right, you have your First Amendment right to do that. Just like
and we respect your First Amendment rights.
So thank you.
You guys don't, like, this is racist as f.
I don't identify as a man of color. Stop calling me that. Stop calling me that.
Do you find the name Washington Redskins, is that offensive to you? I don't think so.
I don't find it offensive.
You know, real racist stuff. Cultural appropriation. Ooh, spooky. Turns out the kid actually is Native American. Womp, womp, womp. Holy frickin' moly, this story just gets even crazier and crazier. Take a look at this update now. Deadspin reporter blasted by mom of young Kansas City Chief fan for falsely wearing blackface. The mother of a young football fan who wore a headdress and painted his face red and black to a Kansas City Chiefs game has blasted Deadspin for accusing him of doubling up on racism against black and Native communities, noting that her son himself is Native American. Holden Armenta became an unexpected focus of an article by senior writer Karen Phillips that focused on a photo of the boy standing sideways, suggesting that he was wearing blackface with no mention of the red side. Quote, "The NFL needs to speak out against the Kansas City Chiefs fan in blackface and Native headdress," read the headline, which accused the boy of doubling up on racism. Could you imagine accusing a 12-year-old of racism with no evidence whatsoever? Phillips, a former New York Daily News reporter, also slammed Holden's Native American headdress and his tomahawk chop gesture, claiming the boy found a way to hate black people and Native Americans at the same time. Could you imagine saying that about a 12-year-old? It takes a lot to disrespect two groups of people at once. Who is he disrespecting? This is the man, by the way, who wrote that article, Mr. Karen Phillips. What an absolute clown. He then continues to write, "This is what happens when you ban books, stand against critical race theory, and try to erase centuries of hate," he wrote. "You give future generations the ammunition they need to evolve and recreate racism better than before." Oh my lord, this guy is living in a fantasy world. He goes on and on and on, blah, 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 but then it turns out that this young boy's grandfather is in fact Native. This young boy is connected to a Native tribe. He is Native American. Holden's grandfather, Raul Armenta, sits on the board of Chumash tribe in Santa Ynez, California. Raul is listed as a business community member who was first elected to the board in 2016 on the tribe's website. So his grandfather is a board member of a legitimate Native tribe in California. Yeah, pretty sure this kid could wear the headdress all he wants. Pretty sure anyone can, especially at a sports venue. For the most part, I'd say it's respect for Native American tradition. And again, it's this weird situation where leftists are just kind of like speaking for minority groups and speaking for people, you know, being offended on behalf of others. Nobody is offended by the Native American headdress, just like no one was ever offended by the Washington Redskins being named the Washington Redskins. In fact, Native communities are actively fighting to have the name returned back to the Washington Redskins and no longer the Washington Commanders. It's a piece of their history and American culture. They don't view it as offensive, they view it as representation. This is, again, representation. But we have a bunch of slimy fake news journalists who want to create this big viral sensation story, who want to see racism and absolutely frickin' everything, to the extent that they're willing to attack and smear a young kid. I don't know how old the young boy is. I think he's like 12 years old or something. That's kind of my assumption. Maybe he's 8, maybe he's 9, whatever it is. Doesn't really make much of a difference. You have to be so messed up in the head to write this kind of article attacking a young kid in such a despicable, dishonest manner. It's the same situation as the Covington kids, and honestly, I hope this young kid sues Deadspin and sues Karen J. Phillips into a frickin' oblivion. Sue them all for defamation. Enough is enough. Enough with promoting this racism boogeyman that doesn't exist. You know, if these leftoid journalists have to falsely accuse a prepubescent child of racism incorrectly and slander him to millions of Americans, if that's what they need to do to find their racism in America, well then obviously their narrative is bogus. Obviously it's not as prevalent as they say. Obviously it doesn't exist to the extent that they claim it does. And obviously the only true racist here is the lefty fake news journo hack who wrote the story to begin with. Let's take a look at his Twitter history. Oh, look at this tweet from March 7th, 2016. "I'm from Saginaw. Spent a lot of time in Flint. I've never seen this many white people in Flint in my life. It's concerning." All right, Karen, or should I call you Karen? We've had enough of your nonsense, I'd argue, for a frickin' lifetime. Please crawl back under the rock from which you came, and hopefully this young boy bankrupts you with a massive $100 million lawsuit, because that's pretty much exactly what you deserve, you racist fake news journo hack. An absolutely unbelievable, despicable story, but, you know, maybe not so unbelievable in the current divisive political age, huh? It's Covington Kid version 2.0. I'd argue probably even worse. You know, maybe not the same jump the gun coverage across the media, but just that one article, the things that were said by that one man about this young kid, absolutely inexcusable. It's not a mistake. This guy didn't make a mistake. What we witnessed was a self-interested, sociopathic journalist who should be condemned, trying to get to the story first, trying to create a story where nothing exists. And that is simply unexcusable. Karen J. Phillips, you should be ashamed of yourself. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, friends, and I will see you on the next one.